All right, welcome in here to the North Florida Prep Report. I'm Andrew Jupe, and thanks for joining us here today. Special episode here for the numbers people out there in the mix that are tuning in with us that happen to enjoy North Florida football. So thanks for coming aboard here, of course, on the Tales of Overreaction Monday. We're going to get a little more calculated and a little more in the numbers as we go with a little Rankings Tuesday here today. So, of course, want to try to hit this twofold. One, want to kind of get into what the scene here for all area teams is, but the cold, hard numbers and communicating those numbers to you. And, of course, maybe trying to unpack those along the way. And then two, on the back half, maybe we'll sprinkle in a little personal rankings here for the teams in the Big Bend of Florida. So let's go back to the first part. So the FHSA doing a ranking system, of course, this is based on for the playoffs. So this just isn't for the numbers, just for general stuff, just for kicks and giggles, right? This is in order to kind of simulate an environment where we're talking about playoff points and who we think is going to be in the playoffs outside of your automatic qualifiers, your district champions. So, of course, it's a meshing of the old school and the new school. So the FHSA has graciously changed the rules again here, and we will have a newer /tweaked /updated ranking system. Something that we can count on is it being updated on a year-to-year basis. So the emphasis here today is trending more towards MaxPreps. So as the exercise here early in the season, the FHSA won't release theirs until later in the year, till, week 4, 5, 6, till they have a little bit of a data set to kind of unpack their rankings to showcase what the playoffs could look like. Spark that debate, give you a picture so you can see where you're trending, where your team's trending, where your opponents are trending, your area opponents or rivals or whoever, right? Whatever you want to know, whatever you want to care about. But there's no basis of that yet. So the closest thing we have are MaxPreps. But the two are becoming more and more synonymous, overlapping, similar, and they're going to feed off each other a lot here for this upcoming season. So the exercise of going through the MaxPreps rankings and see if we can predict what the FHSA rankings. Of course, there is a difference. One of the big differences is the FHSA is going to be counting forfeits. That's something that MaxPreps does not take into account in their general situation until they do their specific Florida rankings. But one thing that the FHSA has incorporated is that kind of margin of victory that we haven't necessarily seen in the past. So that's going to be a big leap forward towards the MaxPreps rankings. So I know we're talking a lot of theory here. So for those practical people out there, let's get right into it. At the top to the bottom, not a lot of highly ranked teams here. Of course, for the audio-only listeners, I'll go ahead and list these off. These are just the MaxPreps rankings going into the preseason, going into week 1, so no meaningful games have been played to this point here that these rankings are affected. So who knows what data sets that they're going off of where we have 0 games played. I guess it's going into last year's rankings. I guess it's going into a little bit of history because we can establish a little bit of a trend as we look back on what these rankings are. But according as of today, and most of the time on Tuesday, that the updated rankings are going to come out for the week for MaxPreps. That'll be different when we start talking the state of Florida, which I think is going to be closer to Wednesday, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But just so you know, MaxPreps updates their rankings twice a week. So they do it once, basically on Sunday coming out of the weekend, to try to get all the results. And that, from what I've been told, Monday, Tuesday, late Sunday, they try to audit, make any tweaks, or if there's any corrections to the score updates, then they will put the updated versions out on Tuesday. Hence why we have a little Rankings Tuesday here. So let's go back into the numbers. Here you see top to bottom, Madison County coming in at 57, Florida High 64, Lincoln 82, Childs 109, Wakulla 113, Walton 117, Mosley coming in here 139, Swanee 149, Gadsden 155, Rickards 162, Leon 188, Marietta 216, NFC 243, South Walton 246, Bozeman 248, Holmes County 241, St. John Paul 274, Bluntstown 287, Godby 278, Lafayette 291, Chipley 299. Boom, we go out of the top 300. Taylor County 333, Port St. Joe 341, Maclay 351. Bay High, 353. Sneads, 364. North Bay Haven, 387. Cottondale, 390. Monroe, 395. Osceola, 342. Rutherford, 439. Freeport, 465. Liberty, 467. Vernon, 482. Hamilton, 486. Weewa, 489. DRS, 497. Jefferson County, 503. Arnold, 522. Graysville, 541. Franklin County, 572. So, there you go. We have all your rankings here for all your area teams here in the North Florida. The coverage range that we kind of ebb and flow into, of course, from Walton over to Suwannee County is basically the North Florida that we're operating under. So you see your rankings here, and we've played no meaningful football games, but there's still metrics that they're using to understand, judge, guide teams here to give you an idea of what to be looking for the season. So not only that, but as you take a little layer deeper, the rankings have been changing, which is even more confusing. You see kind of the up and down, some of the big changes that you can see here throughout. Jefferson, for example, as we take a look at some of the big changers here. So we go even from last week, going from this Tuesday to last Tuesday, which of course no games have been played. There's just a preseason, but most of those haven't been scored. So it's curious as to how things are changing here for MaxPreps. Jefferson County, for example, they won their week 0 game, but they've dropped 4 spots. They've gone down in the rankings for winning their preseason game. Going down, Leon County. Here's our oldest school going, Leon, the Lions. They've dropped 5 spots from 183 to 188. So they're on the brink of dropping out of the top 200. Once again, no rationale. Why has Leon dropped 5 spots? Why has Jefferson County dropped 4 spots? Another big mover, Marietta. Marietta's not being loved by the MaxPreps rankings. From 216, well, they're now 216. From 213 down to 216. Ones and a couple movements here. How about Taylor County? Taylor County is looking like having a bounce back year. Of course, new coach down there, Jesse Braswell. The rankings from MaxPreps, not liking them. Down 7 a week ago, 474, all the way down to 481. Rankings are liking Weewa, though. Weewa's up 4 for a total. Started at 492 just a week ago, and they're on up to 488. Is essentially your big movers and shakers here. I'm being told out of 584 rankings here that the MaxPreps has a record for all schools here in the state of Florida. So we want to try to contextualize this, like we said, and kind of translate those over. And so let's take a magnifying glass. Of course, specialty here in the Big Bend, Gadsden to Taylor County, 17 schools in the mix there. So we took a snapshot of our greater Tallahassee area here in the Big Bend, and we threw those into the rankings. So if you saw here, Madison, Florida High, Lincoln, Charles, Wakulla, Gadsden, Rickards, Leon, NFC, St. John Paul II will be your de facto top 10 if you utilized just those rankings here. Also sprinkle in 11 through 17 would be Godby, Taylor County, Maclay, Monroe, Osceola, DRS, and Jefferson County in that order, as you can see. So we flip it over and you start to do some investigation. Doesn't look like Monroe, and this is where it gets interesting, is because now you've got robotic elements that are coming in here and they're using some kind of metric that we don't understand. and that these robots here at MaxPreps are using some kind of metric that we really don't understand. And so somehow these rankings are changing and teams are going up and down and there's input. And maybe it's just the SSAC teams that are getting in here, but we see it kind of top to bottom that squads are being impacted by these wins and losses and changes on everything, even though some teams in the state of Florida have started the regular season. I get that, right? But how are the teams even having a ranking before we get going? Is it strength of schedule? Is it historical? What peering behind the MaxPreps curtain? So we did a little research and we're trying to understand a little bit about what MaxPreps brings to the table. Of course, things to note about the rankings. They're supposed to be unbiased. So, as far as history or ranking or size or state or region, they're supposed to be cold, hard facts, according to this. But there's this projected winner, projected loser situation is if you're higher ranked, then you get penalized more for losing a team that's beneath you, or vice versa. If you pull an upset, so to speak, in the ranks, then you get more so rewarded for that. But of course, it's all boiling down to the rankings power index. And you look at the MaxPreps site, and there's not a whole lot that they kind of divulge about what exactly weighs into it. MaxPreps is emphatic about how, with their proprietary system, that they do not have any negative human elements, as we're trying to take a grasp here and understand what's going on here with MaxPreps. Of course, that teams ranked higher and lower, blah, blah, blah. But how exactly do they work? We know there's rankings, we know there's ratings, and teams go up and down, and stronger teams are rated better. And if you have wins, you do better. If you have losses, you do worse. But it really doesn't unpack of, hey, this is how much stake we put in wins. This is how much stake we put in margin of victory. Do we incorporate some of those historical elements? Like, how do we have ranks right now? That's what baffles me. That's what baffles me altogether with these MaxPreps ranks. How do we even have rankings right now? Nobody's played a game. If you wanted to factor in and base it off history or base it off just last year, which may be the case, because you look at the list, especially here for the teams that we've compiled in this general listing. Okay, who's at the top of your list? Madison County Championship appearance. Florida High, Elite Eight. Lincoln, Elite Eight. Childs, oddly, top four, no playoffs last year. So the computers from MaxPreps liked them, but not enough here to get them in. Wakulla, you see at 113. Other teams here in kind of this region are all playoff teams. But then you get into Rickards, who was 3-6 last year, but they've got a pretty good ranking. Leon, who did not make the playoffs, started 6-4. Mariana, who wasn't that hot last year, they're up here. Chipley, who had a really good year, way down here at 300. So the size of the school now coming into the mix, it's all very unclear, but just something's not right here. Something doesn't jive with these rankings on Rankings Tuesday. So that, of course, is what we have going on. So while we're here, just as far as the exercise, since we're throwing out ridiculous rankings, for the sake of the exercise, like we talked about at the top of the show, rankings here from MaxPreps, maybe let's add a human element here, for better or for worse. So here's my rankings here, the North Florida Prep Report rankings, if you will. Gadsden to Taylor County coverage area. So Lincoln have here as top dog, Gadsden County, Madison County, Rickards, Wakulla, Florida High, Childs, Godby, number 8, number 9, Leon, number 10, McClay. Here is going to round out your top 10. And just for the series of the exercise, NFC St. John Paul II, Taylor County, Osceola, Jefferson, FAM, UDRS, and Monroe in that order. So, as a differentiation, So now that you've seen the human elements, you've seen the MaxPreps, how do they compare? Well, here's how they compare. Or excuse me, we'll be using the human rankings, the Andrew Jupe rankings here on that left side to differentiate what it is. So I'm a little more bullish on Gadsden, who's coming in hot this year. Lincoln, they really like Madison here with that appearance. So, of course, I'm really liking Rickards as well. Florida High, not as hot as the computers are here because I know they're young. They graduated a lot, even though they had a great year last year. Of course, then you see Childs. They were really liking Childs. Leon's the same. Godby, a little higher than they were at Godby. I switched basically Godby and NFC here from what the computers had. McClay, a little higher on my list than theirs. NFC, a little lower. Taylor County, a little lower. Osceola, higher even. They had Osceola down there at 15. And then, of course, one or two difference there the rest of the way. But just to incorporate that kind of element here, and maybe later in the week, we'll get into these rankings a little more significantly here going forward here. But that's your Rankings Tuesday, what we have going on. Of course, make sure to slam me here in the comments section. Maybe you understand what MaxPreps is. Maybe we need to bring you in for an interview, or maybe you need to provide some information for us here on the North Florida Prep Report that we'd love to touch base with you on. And I think that'd be a pretty fantastic exercise. Of course, make sure to subscribe, comment, tell us how trash we are, all that good stuff here. Make sure you come back for the rest of the week. A couple more shows ready to get locked and loaded here for you. Creeping up on week 1 here, the Florida high school football season.